Hey guys, Miss Osuna here, and today we are going to sew a super cute tote bag. This bag has a lining and a zipper and binding, and it looks really super complicated, but I promise you, you've got this. So let's go on ahead and get started. First things first, you want to do the basic binding video for the pockets. And that video is on YouTube under Corey Osuna, Sewing a Basic Binding. Now let's get started. We're going to sew the seam for the back left to the back right. Go on ahead and put the right sides together. And you're going to sew it at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Great job. Now, of course, you gotta go press it. Ironing and sewing go hand in hand, so make sure that you have lots of water for steam in your iron and that you press each seam along the way. Now it's time to sew the zipper. So we're going to just take that zipper and we are simply going to place it face down onto our back. And we are going to go on ahead and sew that. We'll give that a nice big seam allowance, 5/8 inch. So here we are at the machine and we are going to sew it down. Of course, you want to back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Now we're done sewing the zipper to the back. So now we're going to go on ahead and sew it to the front. So you just take your front piece and you're going to flip it over so the right side faces the table and the right side of the front is facing the right side of the back. And you are going to flip up your zipper. And now all we need to do is sew in the same manner. So the zipper right side is facing the right side of our tote bag front. So with right sides together, turn the piece clockwise to the right and place it under the sewing machine. Of course, backstitch at the beginning and the end at a 5/8 seam allowance. zipper done. Great job. Let's go on ahead and move on to the lining. Believe it or not, it's quite simple. We're going to do the same stitch on the very same line. So with your piece on the table, take your lining fabric and place it with the wrong side facing the wrong side of our zipper. Notice that. And then you just flip it over and sew on the exact same sewing line. You can be a little bit to the left of that line, but you want to be close to that same exact sewing line. And here we go. Back stitch at the beginning and the end. Once again, you want to be super close to that sewing line, or maybe a tiny bit to the left of that sewing line. Now we simply repeat. So grab your other piece of your fabric and you are going to lay that on top of your table, and it's going to cover that first seam, and you simply flip it over and sew on that same line once again. Turn the whole entire piece to the right and place it under the sewing machine. Either sew exactly on the same line or slightly to the left. Can you believe you actually sewed a lining and a zipper with a straight stitch? How easy yet beautiful and complicated was that it's gonna look so professional. Now, let's move on. We are going to put right sides together, and you are going to sew from that zipper area down to the bottom of your bag. So notice where my fingers are, right at that zipper. Place it underneath your presser foot, and we're gonna sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Of course, you want to backstitch at the beginning and the end. That was right sides together, and we're sewing the bag itself. There's that backstitch, and you're gonna go all the way down. All right, that's what it looks like. And now you just flip it upside down and start at the same point. And now you sew the lining. So you just sew from that same point all the way down to the bottom of the lining. Repeat the same for the other side of the bag. And that is your left and right sides of your bag and your lining. Next, we're going to go on ahead and sew the very bottom of our bag. And there we have it. We've sewn the bottom of our bag, and now we flip that puppy inside out. Nice thing here is that you have created a fully lined bag with a zipper, and you just want to poke those edges out, and it looks so expensive. If you were going to sell this, the lining makes it so that you can charge a lot more money. So we're just gonna flip that right side out because we've sewn the bottom of our bag. And next we just need to sew the bottom of our zipper. Now we are just going to simply fold that lining to the inside and stitch all the way across. Of course, you guessed it, you got to press before you sew it. Notice how pressed it is, and now go on ahead and stitch it down. This can be a very close to the edge at 1/4 of an inch. So that 1/4 of an inch, or possibly even 1/8 of an inch if you like, is nice because the lining, we want it to not be so bulky. So that's why we're sewing very close to the edge. I'm gonna go on ahead and sew it at 1/4, but you could even do it at 1/8. Now we have sewn the lining. Look at that. So now we're just gonna stuff that lining on the inside of our bag there, and voila, that is the full tote bag itself. Once you poke everything out, use your fingers to poke all those corners and edges out and give it a good press. Then it's time to sew the straps. I'm gonna do 2 straps. Some people choose to do just 1 strap that goes from the left to the right. Of course, you're the designer, so do what works for you. Here, I have one side of my strap, and we're gonna go down, over, up, and across. So we literally are going to sew a square rather than just one line. We're gonna make a pivot turn as well. So I have a pin in place just to hold my strap, forward and back for my back stitch. Now I'm going down the far right side of my bag. Once I get to the bottom, I'm gonna make that pivot. Here I am at the bottom of my strap. Needle has to be down, press her foot up, turn the fabric to the left. So everything for your bag gets turned to the left. And now you can sew across the bottom. Once I get to the other side, needle has to be down, lift the presser foot, turn again to the left. And now I can sew up. Of course, make sure that presser foot's back down. And now that I've made it all the way up, needle down, presser foot has to be up, turn again to the left. This is my final stitch. We're making a full square. That presser foot goes back down, and we do the final stitch, making sure to back stitch at the very end, of course. Repeat that same process for all of your strap positions, and you are done. Look at that, can you believe it? What a super cool tote bag you have created. I'm Miss Osuna, and once again, thank you so much for joining. I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Until then, happy sewing.